The door slammed shut behind me with a thunderous crack, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the quiet suburban street. Rain pelted my face, mixing with the hot tears I couldn't hold back as I stood there on the porch. My porch, or what used to be mine, clutching my son's small hand. "Don't you dare come back here, you thief!" My mother's voice shrieked from inside, muffled but venomous, laced with a hatred I'd never heard from her before. "You're not stealing your sister's house. Get out!" My father, silent as ever, just nodded through the window, his eyes cold and unyielding. At 35, after years of scraping by, I'd finally inherited Grandma's old Victorian home, the one she'd promised me in her will. But now, with one forged document and a web of lies from my sister Elena, it was gone. Stolen. And my own parents had just evicted me like I was some squatter. My 7-year-old Tommy tugged at my sleeve, his wide eyes filled with confusion. "Mommy, why are Grandma and Grandpa mad? Did I do something wrong?" His voice broke me, shattering the last thread of denial. Fury boiled in my chest, a searing heat that made my hands tremble. This wasn't just betrayal. It was annihilation. I stumbled down the steps, the gravel crunching under my soaked sneakers, pulling Tommy along as the storm raged on. The house loomed behind us, its faded blue shutters and wraparound porch now a monument to my family's greed. Grandma had raised me there after my parents shipped me off during their troubled years, a polite way to say their endless fights and Elena's golden child status. She'd whispered to me on her deathbed, her frail hand in mine, "This house is yours, Lena. For you and little Tommy. Don't let them take it." But Elena, my younger sister by 3 years, had always been the favorite. Prettier, smarter, the one who married rich and popped out perfect kids while I struggled as a single mom after my ex bailed. She'd contested the will, claiming Grandma was influenced by my manipulation. And our parents, they backed her, testifying that I'd always been the jealous one, the liar. The court had ruled in her favor last week, but this eviction, this was personal, vindictive. We made it to the car, an old Honda rusting at the curbside, and I buckled Tommy in, my fingers numb from the cold. Inside, the air smelled of stale coffee and his forgotten lunchbox. "It's not you, baby," I whispered, forcing a smile that felt like glass cracking. "It's grown-up stuff. We'll be okay." But inside, my mind was a whirlwind of rage. How dare they? Elena, with her McMansion and trust fund husband, needed Grandma's house like a hole in the head. It was worth maybe $400,000. Peanuts to her, but to me, it was stability, a roof for Tommy. And now we were homeless, heading to a dingy motel on the edge of town. As I drove, the wipers slapping rhythmically against the windshield, resentment festered like an open wound. I pictured Elena's smug face, her perfectly highlighted hair and designer smile, laughing as she signed the papers. "Poor Lena," she'd say in that fake sympathetic tone. "Always the victim." Victim? Well, not anymore. The motel room was an assault on the senses. Peeling wallpaper yellowed by years of cigarette smoke, a bed that sagged like defeat, and a flickering neon sign outside casting red shadows through the thin curtains. Tommy curled up on the lumpy mattress, clutching his stuffed bear, his breathing steady in sleep. I paced the threadbare carpet, my phone glowing in the dim light as I scrolled through old photos. Grandma baking cookies in that kitchen, Tommy's first steps on those creaky floors. Heartbreak twisted in my gut, sharp and unrelenting. Why had I trusted them? Denial had blinded me for months. The subtle hints like Mom's evasive calls, Dad's gruff warnings about family loyalty. I'd ignored it all, clinging to the fantasy of fairness. But now, humiliation burned hot, evicted from my own inheritance, labeled a thief by my blood. I sank to the floor, back against the wall, and let the sobs come, silent and heaving. Obsession took root then, a dark seed in my soul. They thought they'd broken me, but I'd make them pay. Somehow. Days blurred into a haze of survival. I crashed on a friend's couch when the motel money ran dry, juggling Tommy's school drop-offs with job interviews at coffee shops and temp agencies. Every rejection email felt like another slap, fueling the anger that simmered just below the surface. At night, alone with my thoughts, I'd fantasize about justice. Confronting Elena at her fancy dinner parties, exposing her lies to her social circle. But doubt crept in. Was I really capable of revenge? Moral conflict gnawed at me. They were family. Tommy adored his aunt and grandparents. What if my actions hurt him? Yet the resentment won out, cold and calculating. I started digging. Quietly. Hired a cheap PI with my last savings. A grizzled ex-cop named Frank who smelled like whiskey and regret. "Your sister's got skeletons," he grunted over coffee in a greasy diner, sliding a folder across the Formica table. "Tax evasion hints, maybe an affair. And your parents, they're in on it deeper than you think." The folder's contents hit like a punch. Emails between Elena and a shady lawyer, forging Grandma's signature on a revised will. My parents had known, had even co-signed as witnesses. Betrayal deepened, twisting into obsession. I imagined their faces when I exposed them. Shock, regret, ruin. But I played it cool. Called Mom, voice steady despite the bile rising. "How's the house coming along?" I asked, casual as if we were discussing weather. "Oh, Elena's redecorating," she replied, her tone clipped defensive. "It's hers now, Lena. Move on. Move on." The words ignited suppressed rage, but I swallowed it, planting seeds. "Tommy misses you," I said softly. "Maybe we could visit." Silence, then a hesitant yes. Strategic. I needed access. Weeks passed in slow-burn tension. I volunteered at Tommy's school, pasting on a facade of normalcy while inside. Plans coalesced. Frank uncovered more. Elena's husband, Mark, was cheating, and she'd covered it up to keep the marriage intact and the money flowing. Guilt flickered. Using their secrets felt dirty, but so had their betrayal. One evening, as Tommy played with blocks on the friend's living room floor, he looked up, innocent eyes piercing. "When can we go home, Mommy?" Heartbreak surged, mingled with resolve. "Soon, baby. I promise." That night, I drafted an anonymous email to Mark, hinting at Elena's knowledge of his affair. Not sending it yet. Just testing the waters. Fear gripped me. What if it backfired? But the obsession grew, a cold fire. I visited the house under the guise of family time. Elena was there, all smiles and false warmth. "Lena, darling, let's put this behind us," she cooed, pouring wine in Grandma's crystal glasses. Her touch on my arm felt like poison. Dialogue flowed, natural but laced with tension. "You know I didn't mean for it to go this way," she said, eyes averted. "Liar. Grandma always favored you," I replied evenly, hiding the fury. "But family shares, right?" Her laugh was forced, a crack in the armor. As I left, Dad pulled me aside in the hallway, the air thick with the scent of his aftershave. "Don't make trouble, Lena. Elena deserves this." Deserves. The word echoed, fueling my inner storm. Back at the couch-surfing limbo, I pored over legal options. Reopening the case. Possible with new evidence. But revenge needed more, personal sting. I started small, leaked whispers to mutual friends about Elena's questionable ethics. Watched from afar as ripples formed. Invites declined, sidelong glances at her events. Satisfaction bloomed, but guilt shadowed it. Tommy's questions grew. "Why don't Aunt Elena call anymore?" I deflected, heart aching. Moral grayness enveloped me. Was I becoming like them? Yet the plan evolved. I'd sue for fraud, drag them to court. Let the world see their rot. But first, build the case meticulously. Suspense mounted in quiet moments. Late-night research on my laptop, the glow illuminating my determined face. Anonymous tips to the IRS about Elena's taxes. Each step a calculated risk, tension coiling like a spring. The breaking point came on a crisp autumn afternoon. Tommy and I were at the park. His laughter a brief bomb as he swung higher and higher. My phone buzzed. "Elena." "What the hell are you doing?" she hissed when I answered. "Mark left me. Said someone told him about things." Her voice cracked, vulnerability peeking through. Triumph surged, but I feigned innocence. I don't know what you mean. Hang up. Inside, obsession peaked. This was just the start. Parents called next, mom tearful. Fix this, Lena. For the family. Fix it. They destroyed mine. Cold resolve hardened. I'd file the lawsuit tomorrow. But as Tommy ran to me, cheeks flushed, doubt whispered. What if revenge costs him everything? Filing the lawsuit felt like igniting a fuse. Slow, deliberate, with the promise of explosion. The courthouse steps were slick with morning dew as I handed over the papers, my hands steady despite the storm inside. Fraud, forgery, emotional distress. The charges laid bare their sins. Frank's evidence was ironclad. Affidavits, digital trails, even a witness from the lawyer's office who'd flipped for immunity. But as I walked away, the autumn wind whipping leaves around my ankles, guilt clawed deeper. Tommy's face haunted me. His innocent questions about why everyone's fighting. Was this justice or vengeance? The line blurred, my inner thoughts a battlefield of resentment and regret. I justified it as protecting our future, but obsession had twisted it into something darker. Nights now were sleepless, pacing the tiny apartment I'd finally rented, a cramped one-bedroom with thin walls that echoed neighbors' arguments, mirroring my own turmoil. Elena retaliated subtly at first. Texts flooded in, a mix of pleas and threats. Drop this, Lena. You'll regret it. Her voice on voicemails trembled, revealing cracks in her polished facade. I ignored them, but each one heightened the suspense, like footsteps in a dark hallway. Parents withdrew, their silence a weapon. Mom's birthday came and went without invitation. Dad's gruff calls ceased. Isolation fed my anger but also doubt. What if I lost? Tommy would suffer most. Yet fantasies persisted. Their faces in court, exposed, humiliated. I prepared meticulously, meeting my lawyer, a sharp woman named Carla, in her cluttered office smelling of coffee and old files. This is solid, she said, tapping the folder. But family cases get ugly. You ready? I nodded, suppressing the fear. They started it. Pre-trial depositions were a slow torture, building tension like a thriller's midpoint. Elena sat across the table in a sterile conference room. Her makeup flawless but eyes red-rimmed. You always hated me, she spat during questioning, voice laced with suppressed rage. Jealous of my life. The words stung, echoing childhood taunts. But I held firm. You forged the will, I countered calmly, though inside, heartbreak raged. Our parents testified next, Dad's voice gravelly. Lena's always been dramatic. Mom fidgeted, avoiding my gaze. We just wanted peace. Peace. At my expense. Dialogue revealed layers. Elena's motivation wasn't just greed. Jealousy of Grandma's bond with me, resentment over being the second choice. Parents' favoritism stemmed from guilt over neglecting me young. Complex human flaws. But understanding didn't quell my resolve. It fueled it. They weren't monsters, just selfish. And that made revenge morally grayer. As weeks dragged, suspense simmered in everyday moments. Dropping Tommy at school, I'd scan for Elena's car, paranoia creeping. One evening he came home with a drawing. Our family, stick figures holding hands around Grandma's house. I miss them, he whispered. Guilt crashed over me like a wave, cold and suffocating. Was I destroying his world for mine? Inner conflict peaked. Abandon the suit, forgive? But then I'd remember the eviction rain, their cold eyes. Well, forward. I escalated quietly, leaked the deposition highlights to a local blogger under anonymity. Headlines trickled. Family feud over inheritance turns nasty. Elena's social circle shrank. Whispers followed her. Satisfaction was bittersweet, laced with fear of backlash. The trial date loomed, atmosphere thickening like storm clouds. I practiced testimony in the mirror, voice steady but heart pounding. Tommy sensed the tension, clinging closer. Are we going to court like on TV? He asked one night, tucked under his dinosaur blanket. Yeah, buddy. To fix things. His trust broke me anew. Moral doubt intensified. Revenge might win the house, but at what cost? Yet obsession drove on. The night before court, I sat on the fire escape, city lights blurring through tears. Fantasies shifted, from triumph to fallout. What if they begged forgiveness? Could I grant it? Court day dawned gray and oppressive. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and stale air, benches creaking under spectators. Friends, nosy locals, even a reporter. I sat rigid in my suit, Tommy beside me on a special bench, his small hand in mine. Elena entered, flanked by parents, her face a mask of defiance crumbling at edges. Opening statements flew, Carla painting me as the wronged heir, their lawyer countering with bitter sibling rivalry. Tension coiled as witnesses testified. Frank's evidence landed like bombs. Gasps rippled when the forged signature was projected. Elena broke on the stand, tears streaming. I did it for us, she sobbed, glancing at parents. Grandma was confused. Liar. But her vulnerability humanized her, stirring unwanted pity. My turn. Heart hammering, I recounted the eviction, voice cracking on Tommy's confusion. They threw us out in the rain, I said, eyes locking on parents. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Mom dabbed tears. Cross-examination was brutal. Isn't this revenge? Their lawyer sneered. Justice, I retorted, but doubt flickered. As I stepped down, suspense peaked. The judge's impassive face, jury's murmurs. Then the twist, Tommy asked to speak. The judge, indulgent, allowed it. He stood, tiny in the vast room, voice quivering. Why did you take our house? Mommy cries at night. And I heard Aunt Elena say she tricked Grandma. Shock rippled. He'd overheard a call months ago, innocent ears catching the truth. Elena paled, parents gasped. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Chaos ensued. Motions, sidebars. But Tommy's words sealed it. The judge ruled in my favor. House returned, damages awarded. Elena collapsed in sobs. Parents approached, faces ashen. Lena, Mom started. I turned away, cold resolve shattering into relief mixed with sorrow. Outside, rain fell again, but this time cathartic. Tommy hugged me. We going home. But the victory was hollow. Revenge's price was fractured bonds. As we drove away, I glanced back. Elena alone on the steps, broken. Poetic justice, yet guilt lingered. Had I won or just perpetuated the cycle? The house waited, but healing. That was the real battle.